Hey everybody, thank you for listening to Filling in the Gaps. Be sure to check us out on our social media pages at Filling in the Gaps. From there you can get updates on show releases and anything special we may be doing. We wanted to take a minute or two to say thanks for the support we've received. It's been pretty crazy, to be honest, for being out for just a week. This has been pretty super cool. So first and foremost, we wanted to thank some of our listeners really quick. iTunes user Game Over Paintball says, if you're into tabletop gaming, it is for you. This is a very true statement. Because we do talk about tabletop gaming, and we enjoy it quite a bit. He also gave us 5 stars. So thank you, Game Over Paintball Gaming. And I also assumed it was a he. It could be anything. It could be a robot. Who knows? Rolly Collectibles says, the podcast is about brainstorming for ideas that would be cool to play, and then making them into playable scenarios. I mean, come on. A ghost librarian with a finger sewn over its mouth for a permanent creepy hush? Super enjoyable. 5 stars. Thanks, Whirly Collectibles. That idea came from Rich. However, I feel like I motivated him and gave him the ability to create that idea. So, absolutely all on me. Thank you again. Appreciate that. And we'll move on to the next one. iTunes user Prussia says, the only negative is I wish I found this podcast in a year from now so I could binge it instead of having to wait for each episode. Well, that was super, super nice. Because when I saw that it said the only negative, at first my mind went straight in the gutter, and I was like, man, I'm already bummed out. This person's like, the only negative is this thing hurt my ears for 12 minutes. But they said some nice things, so I appreciate that, Prussia. Wanted to make a shout out to a few of our Reddit users, Dr. Awesome MDMD. Thank you very much for giving us the idea for the book Golem. That should be a very fun encounter for the first episode of our podcast. That one has been a blast to make, and I'm excited to see where that goes. We should be dropping that one sometime this week. As for you, I'm going to try to not destroy this name, but Vracdorum. You like how I have the accent on that? Vracdorum. Thank you for chatting with us about your soon-to-be started adventure. May your dice roll well, your adventurers go rewarded, and your friendships go stronger. That should be a lot of fun. Excited to hear back from you about how that adventure goes. We have decided that we will be releasing episodes weekly along with our episode supplements throughout the week. So, your monsters, your scenarios, things like that can drop throughout the week as well, just for y'all to use at your delight. That should about do it, though. So sit back and enjoy the show. This should be a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
Hey everybody, welcome out to episode 2 of Filling in the Gaps. I'm Rich over here on the Ohio side, and Cam is out on the Texas side, and the two of us are excited to bring you episode 2. Now, if this is your first time to Filling in the Gaps, the goal of Filling in the Gaps is to give you some tools, some stories, some characters, some monsters, and some maps for you to be able to use during your game nights. This is one big brainstorming session between myself and Cam that you are welcome to steal. Now, what we're going to be doing every episode is taking a random theme, which could be Civil War, high fantasy, living inside of a painting, and a random scenario such as trying to rob something, protect something, maybe even escape from a giant monster. We take those two things. Oh, I know. And over the course of an hour, we blend those things together, and then we give them to you as a finished story for you to use. Cam, do you want to talk a little bit about what an episode looks like in the details?
Yeah, for sure. So we sort of started off by defining the theme, giving ourselves an idea of what that means to us. Mm-hmm. We'll even sort of play into the pop culture sort of things that happen in the world and how those themes fall into place. Then we're going to jump into world building, really create some components that will help our players orient themselves. We're going to start by then creating a skeleton of the story, finding a beginning, middle, and end. Sometimes we'll start at the end, sometimes we'll start at the beginning, and we just sort of play it out from there. We flesh out the plot of the story. We start to create NPCs, really liven up your worlds, build some really fun mechanics and really interesting things that could happen inside of the world itself. And then we throw in our final thoughts, maybe some of our favorite parts, even do a little bit of a story synopsis at the end, and then some special stuff afterwards. So it's always fun.
Yep, it's going to be a good time. I'm excited. Me and Cam have been talking literally, I think for the past few days, just about how excited we are to record Because I don't know about you. It's fun to think about story building stuff by yourself, but there's something about being able to kind of just like toss ideas back and forth that I love.
I'm sitting in my room like, hey Sarah, I think I'm just like ready to record today, and she's all, hey, I'm trying to sleep. It's 3:00 in the morning. Could you please get out of here, please?
Okay, see you in an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Rich, I got a question for you. Shall we roll?
Ooh, let's do it. I've been waiting all week to roll.
Oh my god.
Okay. Now I've got my good old white and black dice today. So let's see what we roll.
I'm going with the Texas Longhorns here,
and
representing UT.
And this week I'm rolling for the themes, and you're rolling for scenarios.
That is true.
Okay.
That is absolutely true. All right, you ready?
Let's do it. Ooh, 17.
Okay.
Okay, so
Alrighty.
we are going to be on a terrain.
And Rich, you know what we're going to be doing on that train?
What are we doing?
We're going to be escaping this train.
We're going to be escaping. Ooh, this is going to be a fun one. Man,
I've got about 1,000 different things running to my head right now. It's not running to my head, but through my head.
Exactly. Well, and this is like, so with you running your West campaign, you've had to have been meditating on this one for a while, which I love because I'm coming into this fresh. So for me, like, so let's do this. Cam, why don't you're the train expert here. You're the one who's super excited. Why don't you start us off? When you hear train, what do you think of?
Oh wow, you're giving it to me this week. Train to me is it's almost like a frozen moment in time. See, the train itself is moving and it's passing through areas, but in and of itself, like while you're on the train, it's very static, and so you get, in a storytelling side of things, you get this ability to tell a story without having to worry too much about the passage of time. Because we always have the benefit of actual literal passage of time being on our side. So you can do a lot more inside of trains than I think people lead on. And there is exquisite amounts of opportunity just in terms of overall what you can do with each cart. Each scenario. Like, you can explore so many different areas. So the theme itself and how I define it is absolute freedom within a box. And it sounds sort of retroactive and like sort of hypocrite. I don't know the right word because I don't know words good.
I don't word real good. No, but I get you because it really is true. You essentially have these two environments going on at the same time, and even though what's outside can be going crazy, what's inside those cars can be completely different. And like you said too, one cart to another cart to another cart can have a completely different feel, which I agree with.
Oh yeah, but then think about this. What about how many times have we seen movies where they're on top of the cart? How many times have we seen movies where they're crawling to the sides of the cart?
Yep.
Underneath the train.
Yep.
That's happened many a time. I mean, this is Speed, but the movie Speed with Keanu, that's Speed, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It's a bus, but in a lot of ways, that's still that feeling of this extraordinarily dangerous surface right beneath you, just right below you, and then you're still trying to like accomplish certain things. So there's fights are more fun. You get to deal with train tunnels. As you can tell, I have about 400 model trains in my house.
I always wondered. I figured you were one of those.
Yeah, I actually sleep on a moving train. It's just one of those small train tracks, and it rotates me around my room.
Choo-choo train bread. I gotcha.
Yeah, well, my room is 300 yards long, so it's really nice and easy.
Oh, it's perfect. So, world building for us then is kind of an interesting one because we're not really going to be building a world during our episode today. We're more kind of building a train. So I think with that, we got to think of what makes up this train. So you've already gave out some examples already. When you're thinking of a train, you're thinking of multiple cars. Each should have a different feel from a session standpoint. And I love talking about spotlights. Every car can be a different spotlight for a player. You've got you've got maybe the ballroom car, or you've got the kitchen car where your sneaky player has to be the one to get through to get something, or even a safe room.
Right.
You've got, a car where maybe that's where the 2 guards are at, and your muscle guy has to go and kind of like 1v2 these guards, or your 2 guys have to go. Every cart can be some kind of different encounter. But like you also said, you've got above the car, you've got below the car, you've got beside the car, you've got tunnels and different environments. Like you could even like you were saying, the different environments the train itself is on. Is the train on a cliff? That means there's a rock surface on one side and a huge gap on the other. Like, what
are you going across a bridge?
Exactly.
Circa James Bond fighting on top of a bridge on top of a train.
Yep.
That's these are moments that rip your player out of that feeling of playing a game, and they truly are thinking, "Oh my God, wind is blowing across my face. What do I have to do in this certain situation?"
Yep.
Hey, so I have to think. So obviously, trains they're more set in our time, right?
Yeah.
From let's say this 1700s, 1800s, somewhere on there. I'm not a historian by any stretch of the imagination.
Sounds right enough.
Let's do this though. What about other types of transportation? We're talking about world building. Is there a potential that you could introduce train-esque things into worlds like D&D, circa like the Adventure Zone has done before? Could you do it in things like Pathfinder? Could you do trains when it comes to futuristic types of campaigns? How would you do that?
Well, I think trains are pretty easy to incorporate into like a Pathfinder or D&D, just a traditional like fantasy setting. If you're running like a really traditional medieval setting, it might be hard to do a straight up train. But I think in classic D&D, the idea of a mixture of magic and coal and maybe a little bit of technology propelling something down a rail. I've even seen people who do like, there's magical platforms with these different runes carved on them that's got kind of just almost like a rail gun this train down the tracks. But even in a more, if trains is a little bit too technologically advanced from your session, you could do a caravan. You could have all of these caravans, one on another, on another, on another, being pulled through a forest or something like that. And that's your opportunity to hop from car to car. In a sci-fi setting, a train might not be, a long, slender, multi-card, on a track. It could be a frigate. Right. It could be
it could be a cargo frigate through space. That's transporting over an incredible period of time or an incredible distance. Yeah, that's also something. Now, I will say this though, you know me. I have a deep love for the genre that is the West.
Yes.
And I think we would be doing everyone a disservice if we didn't build a story that involved some kind of robbery or some kind of something that involved making the players have to leave the train in some fashion. I like the idea of like a boss battle up through the multiple cars, and then one singular playthrough to get out of the train, in some way or another.
I was hoping you would say that exact same thing, because I think honestly that is what gives you the biggest sense of pressure. I think in any story you have to have tension. And I think really easily, if you just, the train's going to get from point A to point B and you're just on it, it gets very boring, and your players are constantly going to be doing that thing where they say, what's happening? Right. What are we looking for? Like, why are we here? Why am I not back in town?
And it goes back to what you said before, in many times, the why. Give your players the why.
Exactly.
Why am I here? Why am I doing what we're doing? So we are playing a little bit with our own rules here, because we definitely are introducing more than one type of scenario in a way. But an escape scenario, in my mind, does sort of fall in the take and pay a heavy price of the Harmon Circle.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And then return. So that's why I think we've got to find some other components to a story to help move that along. Speaking of, let's jump into the old skeleton. Let's get these bones a rattling, if you will. Do you want to start with the end? Do you want to start with the beginning? How would you sort of envision it
all working itself out.
I think we've already said kind of our end, personally. If it's talking about escaping, whether it is through a theft or whether it is through maybe you are a prisoner on this train, on this frigate, on this caravan, I think the idea of there is a narrow window you have to hit, and that is the end of the story, or at least the climax, Act 2. Like, that is the resolving action.
So we're funneling our players.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe. For
Right.
I think that leads to the tension of an escape. Like, if you don't, maybe you're a prisoner on a train. If you don't want to be a prisoner over, whether it's a timer, whether maybe you usually play your sessions for like 4 hours or something like that, and you set a timer for 3 hours and 25 minutes, and everything else they're doing through this session, there's a timer, and it's like, this is your window for when you have to be on the roof of cart 3 jumping is at this time. Or whether it's more, maybe there's not an actual timer, maybe it's just a pressure you set as the DM of you constantly let them check in. Like, you look outside the window and now you can tell that you're here, and you only have 2 more stops until you get to the point where you have to be leaving.
Ooh, that's a huge one. Okay, I actually like that, because then if we don't utilize actual time, we leave our players the ability to go about what they would like to do and still sort of live out those fantasies, but at the same time they're getting physical manifestations of where they are in the world. I did have one idea in terms of world building, and this is sprinkling into the skeleton.
Yeah.
Laying the setting, if you will. Could this be a winter type of thing? And I'm talking like absolutely cold, brutally cold. If you left this train, you will have a very hard time surviving in the wild, because it is an absolute winter type of thing. Or are we going to stick with the look off in the distance? I see the orange and reddish dirt with the flat top plateaus and the cactus in the background, and then maybe we make our way up into a mountain, go through a cave, and end out on the other side with giant meadows and all that kind of stuff. Which direction are we taking this today?
Man, that is a good question. I think let's do desert. I know that winter could give us that outside like, oh, I can see, and I guess you could do it there. But I really like the idea of being able to see, like, because you could have with the weather being nice outside and you having these western landmarks, you could have this other. I don't know why I'm stuck on prisoner, but you could have this other prisoner on the train with them, kind of walking them through. If you see, if you see this peak and then you see this watering hole, then like you only have a little bit of time until you get to this like canyon we're going through, and you have to jump.
If you want to not make it to this, okay. So prisoners on a train. It's a nice. I would say a nice day or two, or whatever it may be. I think transition from a day to a night to a day is would be cool to do.
Yeah.
To have some nighttime sneakiness and stuff like that. But we're going to start on because you definitely wouldn't want to keep your prisoners at the caboose or anything. So keep them up at the front, and your party works their way through the train until they get to where this NPC leads them to that. I think we're on the same page there.
Yep. Now, here's another question. With them being prisoners, is this whole entire train a prison train, or are these prisoners just a part of what's being moved? Because you think about it.
I think.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, if you think about it, like, trains were used to move a lot of things. You could have, a few cars on the back that are just all like lumber or materials. You could have, like you said.
Well,
go ahead.
Honestly, it leaves us so much more opportunity in terms of storytelling to do fun stuff, as opposed to, hey, another prisoner train.
Yep.
Hey, what's up?
Yep.
You're Joe. Killed a guy. That's your last name, right? So I think
awesome.
I think
Hey, what's up? My name's Joe Killed a Guy. I have a really literal last name because I killed a guy. You know. Also, I'm Italian and I'm in the West. What do you know?
What are you gonna do?
Anyways, yeah, but if we go with varied trains throughout, we're going to be able to do fun stuff like what you said earlier, the ballroom. We're going to be able to do maybe there's like rewards littered throughout. Is there a?
Oh, there has to be.
Yeah, is there a safe somewhere? There's that risk reward type of stuff going on. A log cart, absolutely, and it's absolutely happening on top of a bridge, and it's absolutely going to have chains break while they're crossing it.
Yep.
Duh. These things tell themselves, ladies and gentlemen.
Pretty
I don't
much.
think we need to.
Pretty much.
I don't think you don't. You know what? Episode 2, final episode. Y'all don't need us
it's
anymore
done.
because it's over. You know what?
Over.
It was really good here. It was really good being here with you.
So let's think of the end. The end of the story is they are obviously escaping. They are somehow, or we're saying they're hopping off this train.
I like that.
Okay.
I like that.
So what?
Now, before we go that, this is in essence less of a freeform like the Haunted School was. It does have a little bit this, excuse my pun, but a railroad type of storytelling.
I mean, it had to be said. But there is a little bit more railroad to it, yeah. But I don't think though that this could feel very much like you have to do this thing. But I think you being on an actual railroad and as a DM, maybe this is where we talk about our beginning, what puts them on this train. You as a DM saying, here is your time limit. Like, here is your amount of time. That's a good motivation. Because it's either you do this or you fail, and it's very simple to understand as a player. So I think even those players who are always just like looking up Overwatch stats on their phones are going to be able to remember, oh yeah, we're on the train to grab something and we have to leave as quickly as we can or something.
Okay, so the end is the jump. And I like that. I like the freeze frame. What have these boys gotten themselves into this time?
Exactly.
But the beginning, how do we get them on the train?
See, I was thinking about that. Now, for me, since it is escape, I think we have to stick with the theme if they were put on the train by the rules we've set up. That maybe they were prisoners. Now, whether they are, whether you have the most upstanding of citizens in your party, and maybe your benefactor is giving them the guise of prisoners to put them on this train to do something, whether it is kill a certain target, steal a certain thing, and get off, or maybe this is kind of a wake-up call for your party where they do break the law a lot, and you kind of lock them up, put them in this train, and get ready to send them off to the big bad jail where all the big bad people go. And your players are now like...
You don't want to be with the big bad people. They'll hurt you.
Exactly. And now your players are like, oh, shoot, he's actually like, we murdered that hobo, and he's actually is like calling us out on it. Like, he's locked us in this jail now.
Again, there is literally no cure, and we have been trying.
So much.
We will be having... episode 5, we will be starting a fundraiser for Murder Hobos Anonymous.
Yep.
Anybody that would like to join the classes...
We're just going to ship them
there.
off.
It's an open environment, and then we're all going to trap you on a train and hope you jump off at this time.
At this time.
Okay, so you could do this with a lot of different levels of groups. Say, for example, your gunslinger and your sharpshooting bounty hunter and your spiritual nature guy or girl. They have been sort of bad, as you say. They've been a little loose with their hand cannons. This is, to me, I like the idea of this is a brand new session, right? They just sort of finished an arc of their overall story. A great way to start a story would be you awaken on this train, and you sort of give them a backlog of those kind of things.
I agree.
What do you think about that?
No, I think that sounds great. Especially, it's a great way. You're talking like new characters, right?
Yeah. Well, you could do new characters. You could even do old characters that have a bad past too. So these could still be high level players too.
Yep. No, I think that sounds perfect because it's a great waking up from amnesia, and what maybe your party didn't write backstories that like fit together real well. Well, this is their time of bonding over a mutual escape. Like, well, you can do that and you can do that, so the three of us, let's get out of here. A very like kind of "Oh brother, where art thou" type feel.
Oh man, yeah, that's a great point right there.
Mm-hmm.
I do like better though what you said about the entrapment. Hey, I hear there's a nice piece of gold on this train worth quite a hefty coin.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think that's like? That's probably what the way you would start this, right?
Well,
as I stutter, by the way, I was like,
I think it could be. I think though, if we're sticking with the idea of escape, I think that's a good motivator. So I think the idea of the escape is enough to make them feel like, okay, we have to find a way off this train. But I think a good successful side quest while you're on this train is exactly what you're saying. Like you're sneaking through the dinner car dressed as like a servant, and as you're going through, you just hear people talking about like, oh yeah, I've locked all my money in this chest in the back, or there's this incredibly valuable artifact that I brought with me, or something where they overhear, and now it's like, shoot, do we have time to get this?
Yeah. I think one of the climaxes in this story, I like the idea of a sneaky climax.
Mm-hmm.
What you said, dressed up like in the dinner in a waiter's outfit, and maybe one person's dressed up like a rich debutante.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's actually the right word to use, but
sounds good.
We're going to use it right now.
Yeah,
it sounds like a great word. But all the players themselves are playing characters that are playing characters, and I love putting my players in those scenarios because there's awkwardness ensues, and it's so great to watch. So the determination of where to go or how to get off the train, or finding out that information, or finding the safe, but doing it in that manner sounds like a lot of fun to me.
Oh yeah, especially if you've got that party member who like talking is their thing, like real life.
Get
talking.
Your charisma guy. You got to give him some time to shine.
Exactly. He doesn't always get that time to shine. Sometimes he does, but this is his moment. Okay, so I like the idea of the climax. Act 1 is a sneaky. We're gonna collect information. Then there's that midpoint. I think the midpoint could be them moving from car to car. I even think, this is just me, that the midpoint could be that like on the lumber cart fight scene. Although that is like definitely a very rising action filled moment. I think what could be that good climax is almost assuming that they are going to get whatever item that they've heard about. It's going to be difficult to get. Maybe they're going to get caught. Maybe an alarm gets raised, and now it's kind of like we are on top of this train car. Guards are coming for us, and we have to kind of survive on top of this car as we wait for the bridge to come by or whatever else, so we can take our jump.
Yeah. Oh yes, because what if they get too quick? They get through the story too quickly.
Exactly. Yep. And
now it's a matter of, now we're literally having to defend and sort of hold down the fort. That's the second climax.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you've made your way across the wood, and you've found this reward, and then you realize, oh no, the bridge isn't here yet. We can't jump yet.
Yep.
Because so we have to create something treacherous on the way, because we have to take away their ability to jump off the train for an X amount of time.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's easy. That's an easy fix. You can. There's a bunch of rocks. That's not going to feel good. Hey, look, a bunch of trees. Hey, look, a tunnel. There's a lot of stuff that can stop them from jumping off of Hey, look, all those cactus patches and stuff.
So comfortable. That'll
Yummy.
break my fall.
Not to mention we have the ability to just keep our players on through imprisonment as well.
If they miss, exactly.
Yeah.
So as far as fleshing out the story, And maybe this is also kind of creating an NPC a little bit. And this all depends upon if this is the type of train car you want to run. I love the idea of, like you said, letting your characters play characters. What if?
Yes.
What if as soon as they get out of this jail car, maybe there's like a small changing room or bathroom or something like that. What if there is a masquerade or something like that going on one of these train cars, and they lift somebody's costume? Now, building on that idea, what if you're looking for a big bad to implement or a returning nemesis or something? What if they just so happen to one of them take like the masquerade costume of this wealthy benefactor, and they're like, maybe that's even how they find out about the information, is like they walk up and people start asking them like, hey, do you know where that thing is? Hey, where'd you like store that at? And they're like, oh, okay, there it is. This costume can get me somewhere. Now if your players are smart, they will hopefully ditch that costume. Then if they're not smart, then this guy is like, there's someone out there wearing my costume, they're probably going to steal my stuff. We need to find this guy, which can be when that climactic Act 2 moment happens, is they're making their way up the train, bad guy's making his way down the train, and they meet in the middle, and it's kind of this moment of, this is the guy who stole my costume.
Right, and it's pure silence in that moment as you peer across an empty car.
Yep.
With boxes and things, and it becomes the last stand. And as throughout the fight, you start to tell your players, here's where you are. Mm-hmm. Here's where you are. You see this flashing by at the window. This is what you see. Mm-hmm. And you can see that final moment. Now, you're going to have a really rich guy, like you said, that's going to want that item more than anything else that they want. He doesn't care about anything else. He just wants his item back. He's a rich, rich man. If he loses a few prisoners, he's fine. But this is invaluable to him.
Yep.
Okay, I like the idea of this. Which I really, really do. Also, by the way, a lot of opportunities for some comedic stuff, which is really fun to do inside of your stories. If you are a funny DM or you like to introduce comedy, have only 2 outfits available, or one less outfit available than what your party is capable of doing.
Yes, 100%.
Or have one of the outfits be something that is quite embarrassing. I've literally had my players roll for embarrassment while being escorted to a police station or a sheriff's office. And I had specific embarrassing things happen associated to those numbers because I'm sadistic.
Oh, but they probably remember that and laughed about it too.
Oh, we had a lot of fun. It was definitely a great time, but at the same time I was like, I could have been nicer, but you know what? It's not always fun to be nice, We got to have a little bit of fun with them.
Exactly.
Okay. That's we've started to really get a good feel for it though, because we've got our beginning meeting our NPC, which we will flesh him out here shortly, I would imagine. Mm-hmm. Meeting our NPC, him giving us an idea, or her, or whomever, of giving us an idea of where we're going. We're going to start by our sneaky espionage mission, our traversal back up the train if they do decide. Okay, one question though.
Yeah.
One question. If they decide to go back up the train to go for that, that's all fine and well. We've got a good way there. Here's how we can derail the railroad.
Okay.
What if they choose not to go after that? What if logic prevails, or what if they say, you know what, fine, I don't need that. And they continue back down the train.
And they just kind of like, okay, we're just going to chill out until this moment.
Even that, or maybe that's not the final train. Maybe we introduce a few more trains after that, or carts, excuse me. How can we still promote, a sense of fear or danger? Do we then introduce the moment when a guy says, "The prisoners have gotten out"?
Oh, you have to,
or something like that.
Yep.
Okay. So that's our fork in a road. That's actually really cool that we've been able to do that then. So we can take this in 2 separate directions, which is fun to me. Because you're going to have players that are like, to hell with that.
Yeah.
I don't need
want that.
no. That right there, no. I want to get off this
I want to
train
get off right now. Which I think maybe part of that could be if you are... Okay, so one thing I was thinking of that could help players from just being like, well, I just want to jump off the train right now. And could also make that rich NPC villain feel all the more villainous and make you hate him. And it maybe ties into the prisoner thing too. What if what if this train is going on maybe top of a mountain, and you have been captured, bought, you are prisoners, whatever, and you are now slaves being taken to the top of this mountain to mine.
Right.
That way, since you're going up a mountain, which means you have to wrap around because it's a train, you can't just jump off whenever, because if you just jump off whenever, you're jumping off of a mountainside,
right.
which means bad news bears.
Yes.
And if you jump to the right of the train, you are going to get ground to meat when you fall, and the rest of the train like catches up with you or something.
Right, and we don't want ground beef players.
Exactly.
And they don't either.
But here's the thing: unless you jump off the very back of the train, so that could be our fork if they just really want to get out now.
Okay. Yes.
But that would have to be presented as like a hard option. Like the easy option, make your way to the middle of the train and jump off when we're on a bridge going over a waterfall. Hard option, make your way all the way to the back of the train without getting caught, then jump off.
Right. Yeah, but you can definitely, I'm not saying lead the witness or anything. You can just put hard carts in the way.
Exactly. Yep.
I'm not saying like you open the door. There's 35 men there.
Yep.
Good luck.
Yep. Here you go.
And they all have they all rolled initiative and they all rolled 20s. Have fun.
Yep. Your new characters wake up in a train.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you can sort of lead them in ways that you want them to go, but also again, it goes back to let your players tell that story because it's theirs. You know, we do this because we want them to have a great time. At the end of the day, that if they're having fun and we hate the story that we told, but they're laughing or having these memories or bringing it back up to you, I mean, ultimately it's a success either way you go.
Exactly. Now, what I was going to say too about this NPC that maybe could add to that level of fun is this NPC, this rich guy. This is the slave owner.
Yes.
So he's captured you. He's kind of rubbed it in your face. He has to show up at some point and talk to the bailiff or the head guard and be like, oh, these are the slaves, or maybe this is a returning big bad who this is his moment. Where in the movie, like this is your player character's like the most desperate hour. Like, oh shoot, the bad guy won, and now he's capturing us. Like if you've played Fable 2, this is the moment where you are now a prisoner. And the whole time you're there, you're just looking for that time to escape and to get that ship and to leave. This is just that moment on a train where the big bad rubs it in your face, where you hear that he has something special on the train, and hopefully you want to take that and leave, which makes him want to chase you. Or maybe you just want to sneak all the way to the back with all of that risk, jump off, and he's still probably going to be like, well, maybe these guys heard something, so I have to go and make sure I, take him out.
No, I'm all about that. Okay, so as of right now, actually, and we've diverted, but it's actually gone in a way that I like.
Okay.
We've gone up a mountain. First and foremost, mountains, super daunting, which also lends itself to the feeling of this is a bad guy. He's the one who's going to like try to screw you over. You're very isolated if you end up here. Don't end up here. You work your way up the mountain. You meet your NPCs. They start to inform you of things. You introduce said bad guy. He's like, yep, guess what? It's me. And you guys are mine. Then, climax, Act 1, you start to sneak around. You start to gather information through some of the carts as you do some fun stuff. In my opinion, I think it would be a lot of fun. Then they make their fork decision. That'll be fun. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yep.
Because you can give them that option at that point right there. Let's for the sake of this podcast, let's say that they decide to go back up. Now we're working our way up the wood. Oh, and hey, Rich, we didn't even talk about it. We're gonna cross over the wood. It's not gonna fall at first.
Ooh, it's gonna fall the second time.
It's gonna fall the second time because we're gonna. Exactly, and we're going to give them little hints of, hey, these rickety chains here are holding this wood barely as they make it across, and then when they come back, they're prompted with that in a stressful scenario.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Nope, that's perfect. Because that's like someone has a good perception roll, or you even just drop, like you said, you dropping that, like, the chains, like, there's a lot of lumber on this because the train's overloaded. It looks like, with a little bit of pressure, they could snap. If they come back and you have a combat and you set up that moment where there's 3 or 4 guys standing just in the way of that wood, the player who remembers the chains are about to snap will feel so good watching that happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We got a sprinkle in our stories, man. That's what we got to do. We got here's your little sprinkle.
Yep.
Okay. And then we have our ending, which is jump off the train and escape. We don't have to worry in the case of our podcast. We don't have to worry about what happens afterwards. Right.
True.
We're just worried about getting off the train. That's the end of this arc.
Yep.
Yeah. Or the other end of the story is jump off the train on the backside. But you do have the showdown with the big bad. So that leads me into this. NPCs.
Yes.
Is he as powerful as, say, the Lich in terms of powerful, or can he be beaten in this moment? Since he's a comeback, right? He's a comeback as a villain. Mm-hmm. Is this a great time to finish off one of your big bads?
I mean, it could be. I think this training session could be a great point for, like, an assassination. I think with this one, though, we have to stick with the idea of escaping. Now, I think this could be a returning villain where even if, like, you anything short of, like, a coup de grace moment,
I don't speak French.
Oh, sorry. Anything short of, like, they cut off the guy's head during combat, he could survive. And once again,
is that what coup de grace means?
I think so. Like a finishing move, like a.
Oh yes,
maybe.
Yes,
I could be
the finishing move. Yes, I think the finishing move.
But
the chopping of the head.
The chopping of the head in French.
But
coup de grace. I think the great survival tool that this villain of yours has is you as the DM kind of taking a look at that combat. And if it looks like when things start to sway in the player's favor and they're about to win, hopefully not even all the bad guys are dead, just a few of them are dead, that's when you can start to say, you can see that about, a minute off or 6 rounds off is your jumping point.
Right. His health is represented through the time and distance away from your jump point.
Exactly. And I really hope, too, that this specific bad guy, I don't think he is the biggest and most brawly and survivable dude. I think he's just, like you said, a rich guy who owns an organization and surrounds himself and employs big, powerful people.
Correct.
So he's not even
money and influence is his power.
Exactly. So
more than the physical prowess.
Yep. I don't think he's going to oversee I don't think he's going to oversee the fighting. He's going to show up with his goons. He's going to say, "Get that back," and he's going to go back into the train car. He's got a masquerade going on, dude. He's got people to entertain.
Yes.
And there's this moment too, if they still have the mask on, like, "Oh, and do get my mask back in one piece." The rest of them I don't really care about, but the mask was expensive.
Oh man, you would play such a great bad guy.
Oh, I do. I like bad guys.
You're such a good person. I think that there's those moments inside where you just go, I have to let this out real quick.
Exactly. Yep.
Oh, and do get my mask back, please. I love that. That was amazing. It just gave me chills a little bit. Now, I'm actually frightened.
Now, other NPCs, I have this fun idea for the plot giver, where, and this could even be the guy who helps them get through the train, or at least gives them the idea. Why they're prisoners, there's got to be like a returning prisoner. like the guy who escaped the last time. And maybe that's even why the big bad shows up in the back cart if
Yes.
you haven't introduced him previously in the campaign, as he gets in this guy's face and he's like, oh, well, it looks like we have a returning member of the mines. You thought you'd escaped last time. And when he leaves, that guy's like, hey, I still remember how to get out of here. They haven't fixed everything. Like,
right.
If I bring you guys in with me, are you good to get out of here?
Yes.
Which
you definitely need somebody like that. Maybe even he was an ex-employee, or an ex-goon.
Ooh, that's good too.
Started to become a good guy.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's good too.
And this is his villainous redemption story that he's trying to tell.
It's like, hey,
and
let me help you get out of here. Now, one thing too, I know we're hopping all over the place this episode, but another idea I thought of that just kind of makes sense to me is if you are this rich guy and you are this prisoner train and you see prisoners start, disappearing, what's to keep you from stopping the train? Like, just flat out stopping the train and searching every car.
Well, that's actually a really good point.
Mm-hmm. I think the solution is, if the prisoner car is, prisoner car, coal car, engineering car, I think that first thing, whether this NPC or whatever you do to explain has to say, is the train has to keep moving. So first thing they do is you got to go up to the engineer car and you've got to, whether you persuade them or kill them.
Billy's on shovel duty.
Yeah, or knock them out. Someone has to, well, maybe not shovel duty, but, just let them know that with some checks or something, they can figure out some way of jamming this machine, this mechanism that is the train car in the forward position.
I love the idea of a runaway train.
Exactly. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. And that way, too.
And now it's imminent that they have to get off as well because of what they've done.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
And with that too, even if all they do is hop out the back of the train and take like that route, so they haven't stolen anything, if that train, collides off the rails and derails and demolishes and all that kind of stuff, well, then this rich player is going to return and say, you've cost me all of this. Like you ruined my whole train engine.
Yeah, because as we tell these stories, we have to think about not only the stories of our players, because everybody's got their own individual story that they're trying to tell, but we're also telling the stories of each of these characters. And so, just as if we were talking about the ex-goon that's going to be the villain redemption tour 2017 going through the train, or 2018 going through the train, or you've got the rich man that owns the train that's really, really, seeking out a way to essentially just take advantage of these players. All of them have a beginning, middle, and end that they're trying to tell in a story. And so as a storyteller, it's a really cool idea to think about those NPCs. What's their end game? And it will help develop them as they are talking with your characters or moving along with your characters. I had another idea for an NPC, by the way.
Ooh, what are you thinking?
I was thinking a really, really cool sort of smarmy, but I would like him to be a good guy. I like good guys to be, helpful sometimes. But almost like a butler of sorts, like a cart butler.
Okay.
Just sort of very uppity and talks like this right here. And he's like, hello, welcome to this cart. Just a comedic relief kind of guy.
Oh, has to be.
Especially during the masquerade party. I think that'd be a lot of fun to do as well. Maybe, and I don't. Sometimes I'd like to have characters that just have fun.
Oh yeah.
Just go in and just sort of spice it up a little bit.
Well, and fun with a purpose too. What he could do if you have this, going back to the idea of they're wearing this big bad's mask. This butler comes up and says, "Oh, my liege, remember, let me point out a few people in this train car who have been wanting to talk to you, or, who would be nice for you to go over and say hello to. You've got this investor, you've got, this guy, make sure you talk to the captain." So
awesome.
It's funny, but it also says...
You're bringing the value.
Yeah, but it also says, here's, some people in this room to talk to if you want to. Whether that's them collecting information to be that could very easily be after this session, your next 4 sessions, or your next 4 like little chapters. Is like, okay, this big bad knows this big bad who's supplying him, and he knows, this girl over here who is his slave runner. And I mean, this sounds just like the beginning of like Red Dead Redemption 4. Like, you're on a train, you're a slave, and then as you're escaping, you meet every other person that you're gonna go and fight as a mini boss. Like,
right. I love that. I love that idea for sure. For sure. Speaking of, though, ideas, what about ideas in terms of mechanics?
Mm-hmm. Man.
Are there? I think one of the things that would be a good mechanic to introduce while playing this stuff is anytime that you're outside.
Yes.
Movement or aim or something like that is hindered.
Oh, it has to be. For your benefit and for your hindrance.
Correct. It's harder to hit, harder to shoot, or harder to aim.
Yep.
Like we talked about in the old one when I discussed my minecart idea and all that.
Yeah.
Okay, for sure. As you elevate up a mountain, is there anything that you could add mechanically there that you could think about? That's not cumbersome too much to take away from your story, because that's always a difficult little balance.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, in my mind, as I'm imagining, some kind of waterfall to jump into, water has to come from somewhere. So maybe this isn't a desert mountain. Maybe it's like still like a rough foresty mountain. And as you get higher, it gets colder. Which could mean that there are some carts where it's nice and toasty and warm because there's heat. And there's other carts where it's frigid and cold. And going back to this wood cart with the lumber, slippery when wet, icy when wet. Because right there is a moment of like, make a dexterity save. You fail. You're hanging off the edge of the cart. Now, next person in line, all the next players have to decide, do I go save this guy from dying and maybe get shot at? Or do I continue to shoot, continue to swing at these bad guys?
Right. Okay, I like that. So as we're elevating, you can start to lay those seeds, like we talked about earlier, right? The tight chains. Now it's the precipitation earlier that was around this hot, or not hot, but sort of arid world that has now become sort of forested, and then it starts to become more ice. The idea of hitting these biomes as you go up is also really cool to me.
Yep.
Because the change in setting is just fun for your players.
Yep.
But then you can add to that by introducing those moments out on the player as they're trying to accomplish certain things as they move along.
Yep.
So mechanics are it's difficult because there's times where sometimes it's better to just let it play itself out from a story perspective.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Just to completely see what the players come up with, rather than like
let them set that in mind. So you've got to sort of stay on your toes.
Oh yeah,
on that regard.
Like, be willing to cut some of this stuff on the fly if it seems like it's too much. Another mechanic. Go ahead.
That's what we're here for, though.
Exactly, that's true.
We're here to provide the bevy of options
that you can pick and choose from,
a la carte.
Mm-hmm. Another mechanic I thought of, if this is your players have been captured, then there's a few options. Either their equipment is with them on the train, or it's another reason for them to want to get off, or maybe it's another NPC. Okay, sorry, I'm talking and coming up with ideas at the same time.
It's okay.
Scenario 1, their equipment is on the train. Now they have a goal that they have to find out, where is this train where the equipment's being kept.
Yes.
I think regardless of that solution that I just said or the one I'm about to say, they start off with nothing but handcuffs. So while they're making their way to the front of the train to take out these guards, it's unarmed combat. It's grapple checks, which is where your big burly guy who plays fighter and doesn't really get a lot of time to shine outside of combat. This is his outside of combat session where he can be like, I can wrestle this dude. Like, I can do that. Now, the other scenario...
And one of them is going to strength check to break the handcuffs.
Oh, exactly. Yep. Yep,
Right.
which is good too. And once you get up there, you can have some tools where they could like, rail splitter or something that can like do it a little bit easier. The other scenario is their equipment is not on the train, which I think if you're playing a smart villain, why would you have your enemy's stuff on the train? So it just becomes another.
No, villains are supposed to be dumb and maniacal.
Well, here's my pitch for smart villain. Now you have to find out in the masquerade room or from someone on the train, where is our stuff? Like, where did our stuff go to? And that can be as simple as the butler introducing you to one of the NPCs, and the guy just like, hey, thanks for getting me all that stuff off of those prisoners.
Yeah, his weapons dealer.
Exactly. He's like, I have it stored over here in this city. We're going to let the items kind of cool down a little bit because some people knew about these guys, and then we're going to start peddling it off. And now the players are like, we have to get to the city and get our stuff back.
Right. Yep. See, and this is a really cool thing from the story. There's that's and it plays into the train. Mm-hmm. There is a beginning and there is an end, but just as the train continues to move, whether the players are on it or not, so does the rest of these stories outside of it. And so this train acts as like the seed planting for a lot of things that you could sort of branch out from.
Exactly.
In your other stories.
Yep. And that's, I think, what good storytelling is. I know technically our whole format is built on, hey, here's an individual session. But the hope is that, these individual sessions can be used to tie into whatever web you're weaving for your players, or give you the idea of maybe even having a web to weave for your players.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm trying to, let's spitball real quick. I know we're kind of getting up there in time, but let's spitball some ideas of other carts. Because I know we've covered a few, but just for those who are looking for more.
Just some fun carts. I had one that I was thinking of from the beginning. Oh, a wild animal cart.
Dude, that's what I was about to say. Like, literally, was an animal cart. Because that's the one time maybe in your whole entire D&D career where you're going to make an animal handling check to not have these animals make a lot of noise.
Oh, yeah. It plays into a lot of different things. It could be a ferocious animal. It could be, don't wake this animal up. It could be all kinds of different stuff. I thought that one. What about an explosives cart?
Ooh, yep.
I like that one. I like the idea of that.
Especially if this is a mine that they're going up to. I mean, if this is a mine, you're going to need materials, you're going to need explosives, and you're going to need, like, cattle or stuff like that. So maybe instead of it being just you hop off the back of the train, maybe the two scenarios are, or another scenario, they either jump off the back of the train, easy peasy. They disconnect the last car, easy peasy. They jump off into a waterfall. All of these, they could have an item or something with them. Or the quicker option that maybe not the good guy recommends, but the renegade returning slave recommends, or maybe even wants to do, and hopefully your players talk him down, is we get to the explosive car and we light this sucker. Like, there's a lot of bad on this train. Right. But if you do that...
That could even be a moment where you could say, like, their players are like, no, we're not going to do that. And if they don't successfully, and you don't even have to roll for this, but if they don't necessarily convince him that that's not the right thing to do, he just
does
rogue.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now I will say with that though, you'd need to introduce some reason why they wouldn't want to just blow up the train. I've done this before where I didn't give them good reason not to, thinking like, oh, they're not just going to do that, and they will just do it. So there has to be maybe a lot of slaves on that cart, maybe some familiar face slaves where you could have some other returning NPCs that they like who are also on the train, and they're kind of like, hey, no, you go, you get out of here, and then you come back for us when you can. That way, like, the explosion option is kind of off the table.
Right. And it's still even then it leads back to, if that guy does go rogue, it leads to more tension, it leads to more stress, because it's like, oh no, I do need to save those people. There's just little things that you can continue to surprise your players with and trick your players with.
Exactly.
And that trick comes off as bad, but it's not. It's a good thing.
Oh,
you want to do that. I have another cart for you.
Oh, what?
We gonna go party, man. We gotta get drunk.
Ooh, the drink cart.
Yeah.
Oh.
We gotta have a little bar
All
cart.
your players
I know
have
that
to
we
stay
had our
there.
masquerade party. I just didn't know if that was the exact bar cart or not.
I mean, I think they could be the same thing or they could be different.
Mm-hmm.
I think having the bar at least be something you reference, because that's where you're gonna get the good information, right? Is from that guy who's drinking a bit too much. That's where you're gonna find out. Maybe it's a guard over there who's off duty, or maybe it's something. That's where you find out, like, where the explosive cart is, or where this item you need. If you're going to disconnect the cart, that's where you find out, well, the engineers keep it here. But why would you need that, right?
Why would you need that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that got me. What? I had one more card.
Okay.
I don't know why I got all these cards. I'm like Mario Kart over here. A passenger cart. You duck in and out of rooms as the security guards are making their rounds.
Like a
fake sleeping.
Yep, like the sleep cart. Oh, you have to have that.
We gotta have the sleep cart.
Which means if we're gonna have a sleep cart and we're gonna have all this other stuff, one thing I don't know why we didn't mention it, but you have to have a cart that has just luggage, which gives your sneaky guys, if they're just staying with the sneak, gives them the ability to change costumes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Or that's also where, maybe not that cart, but you have to have that other cart where the safe is, or where that item we were talking about earlier is. Whether that item is, maybe that item is even just another prisoner who's just very high value, and you've got to break him out. But something like that. I think that cart too. I think the way you get into that cart though has to be from the ceiling. There has to be guards on both sides.
Oh yeah, we forgot about the ceiling entries.
Yep.
See, there's so much stuff to work with here, guys.
Yep.
And we're just laying out the table for you. Speaking about laying out the table, let's get some final thoughts on this.
Okay.
Because we're getting to about that time. It's the last dance to know. I don't know. That's a country song.
It's about that time.
Okay. Final thoughts. First and foremost, how can our DMs incorporate this into their world? That's a bit broad for this one specifically, but I'll ask you this: what was your favorite bit about this one that we created? And I'm going to do the story synopsis for our players just to let them know.
Okay.
Or our DMs.
My favorite thing, and maybe for me, just because it's I like that good bad guy, like having a good bad guy. I love this as how I tie my players into the larger plot. The more I thought about that Fable 2 moment, the more I thought, like, this is a great moment to introduce your players into a campaign that they could easily play for 3 months to a year, just with this villain who's always after them because of that, or this. Oh yeah. So I love that. I love having a good bad guy you can fall back on when you need it.
I dig it, man. All right, so correct me if I'm wrong. You cut me off when you need to. But to start, our players have been trapped.
Yes.
Or captured, and they have been left on this cart. We are now providing them opportunity through our NPCs to make their way through the cart and finding ways of exit.
Yep.
We introduce the fear and or tension through our big bad. We like the idea of a reintroduction of a previous bad or a person that was thought to be good that is now bad. We like that idea.
Yep.
We work our way into our masquerade party as we do our sort of sneaky, charismatic, really let people shine in the talking world and gaining information, gathering intel. That's Climax Act 1.
Yep.
Our midpoint is our forks. Our decision to either move to the back of the train, find a way off the back, move back towards the valuable object, move towards certain carts that prompt major shifts in terms of how the train is going to continue to work.
Yep.
Climax Act 2 is the confrontation with our big bad. It's the traversal back towards the back of the train through a major interaction with either the TNT cart, like we said, the wooden thing. I mean, we can do a lot of those things, even up to the climax, and then our end is our players
either successfully or unsuccessfully taking with them their prized goods, jumping off of the back, jumping off the waterfall, destroying the train. We haven't really talked about one last thing, and that is the idea that the players don't escape the train. But I think we can leave that up to our players' imagination, our DM's imagination.
Yeah.
We can't do all the work for you guys.
Yeah, if they don't escape the train, that's another episode.
There it is.
So you'll have to tune in next time.
Tune in next time to the randomized episode that we do every single time.
Yep. It might tie in.
Man,
it may not.
Who knows?
One thing.
Somebody's listening to our podcast right now, and they're like, "Okay, wait. They were just in a haunted school. I'm confused."
Yeah, I'm confused. What exactly is happening? No, but I think that sounds like a good breakdown. That's all the steps that you're going to want to hit. The more that you embellish on that as a DM, or the less, that's completely up to you. I will say, I think at the end of the midpoint, the one thing we forgot to throw in, I think the transition from the midpoint to climax Act 2 is, whether it is a siren, whether it is guards rushing past you to the front of the train, whatever it is, it's that alarm has been raised. We know that prisoners are missing. And that's the moment where they, go through just midpoint, kind of lounging around to, oh boy, like we gotta get ready to get out of here.
Tension has been ramped up big time.
And remember too, you as the DM, providing them that moment in the beginning of the story, those visual cues they know they're looking for. We're gonna pass, a forest full of redwood trees. We're gonna pass, through a cave. The cave is easy. It goes black, it comes back. We pass over, an icy plain. That way, you as the DM can throw those things out so they know the timer's ticking. Crap, we just went through the forest and we're still at the front of the train. Like, okay, cool, we just went over the icy patch. That means we're about to go over the bridge to get ready to jump. Whatever it is.
Yep. It's perfect, man. I think we're going to get hired by Hollywood probably episode 7.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Yeah. For sure.
We're ready.
Yeah, with some of the movies that are coming out, trust me, we can make something at least equatable to the stuff that's coming out nowadays.
Absolutely.
I don't want to say better. But guys, that's the end of episode 2. Hopefully you guys got some ideas. We'd love to hear from you guys on what you liked, what you'd like more of. And also, as we always say, we now have 2 open spots on our 2 20-item lists. So we'd like to hear a theme from you or a scenario from you so we can add that onto the list. As always, Cam, do you have our social media handles that you could give these guys? We forgot to mention that last time. So we can give you guys all of our info so you can follow us, and most importantly, get the NPC, monster, and map drops that we're going to be dropping, throughout the week tied into this session.
Right, absolutely. First and foremost, you can always follow us on the standardized social media platforms like Instagram at Filling in the Gaps. You can hit us up on Reddit. We have a pretty active Reddit community already. That's a lot of fun, very interactive. At Filling in the Gaps as well. You can always just go into the search bar, type in Filling in the Gaps. It really leads you right there. Yep. Twitter, same thing. It is Filling in the Gaps, where it actually doesn't have a G.
Drop
because
that G.
Thanks, Twitter.
Yep.
You can find us on SoundCloud. Find us on iTunes weekly on Mondays for our full podcast drops. Sometimes bi-weekly. It just depends. And we also will be releasing YouTube animatics with storyline examples voiced by us with animation done by Rich. He is amazing. I do a little bit of sound editing myself, so we have a lot of fun with that. You can email us at mailfillinginthegaps@gmail.com. And you can also find us on the Tumblr page as well at Filling in the Gaps. So we got all the social media.
All the things. We did the things that you're supposed to do to be successful, guys. Well, guys, we look forward to seeing you guys next time. We can't wait to roll with you guys again. Please contact us. We'd love to hear back from you, and we hope you guys have a great next game night.